Pasito tum tum, pasito tum tum, pasito tum tum, pasito tum tum, pasito tum tum.
I know I'm kinda late at this, but let's do it. If I could describe Zack Snyder's Justice League, it would be a fascinating, redemptive story. What's very fascinating about Trouble Productions is that rarely do they get the chance to remake themselves and improve their poorly received product of a movie. And when it does crash, the focus is no longer in the movie, but on the behind-the-scenes drama that led to the bad results or how it got cancelled not seeing the light of the day. But with Justice League, I never thought I would see so much devotion from fans to see Zack Snyder redeem himself after failing to impress audiences with a much darker and depressing depiction of the DC universe with Man of Steel and Batman v Superman. But everything changed when facing tragedy in his family, along with being unjustly replaced by the director of the first two Avenger movies, Joss Whedon, who turned out to be an abusive director to his actors and was only there to rewrite Snyder's original script into a more colorful, goofy, Marvel-like superhero film that everyone was used to at that time, resulting into a jumbled, inconsistent, ugly mess with no passion whatsoever. Years of petition in the internet paid off when HBO Max announced that Zack Snyder's cut would be released as how it was originally meant to be. While it is a far better improvement from the last cut, the hype has gone to the point of comparing it to The Lord of the Rings, based on the style, the scope of the movie, and just to compare how Zack Snyder's cut is up to the level of Lord of the Rings. Even though they say it was meant to look like Lord of the Rings if Snyder would have had done the Justice League Trilogy as planned, how much of its similarities are accurate and how much of it's only hype talking. Now, normally I would try to talk about older movies, but since Lord of the Rings made it into Classic Turner Movies one time, I guess it's part of the old club now? Welcome to the classics. I feel old because now I gotta ask. The Lord of the Rings, Zack Snyder's Justice League. What did they have in common?
Size does matter!
Also be aware this will probably contain spoiler alerts, so you've been warned. From what it seems, it feels like this was Snyder's only shot to give us a hint to what his trilogy would have been like, and so he used all of his eggs on the basket to make his vision look as mythological and as epic as The Fellowship of the Ring, The Two Towers, and The Return of the King. That is assuming we will never get to see the rest of his trilogy completed, unless some crazy nut does restore the Snyderverse. There's a powerful object that can destroy the world. In this case, the three mother boxes are the ring. The main villain, Darkseid, could represent Sauron, who wants this powerful object. Steppenwolf is Saruman, who seeks this object for his master, and the Justice League is the Fellowship of the Ring. There's an epic backlash of a variation of heroes trying to stop the main villain from taking over the world at first, with the usage of the powerful object. Something that was missing in the Joss Whedon version was tension. There was no real tension for the heroes to win due to the main villain's poor motives, which made the fights meaningless, holding no important value. In the Snyder Cut, as in The Lord of the Rings, show how high the stakes are, paralleling the lack of hope to win as it foreshadows the possible defeat of our heroes.
Is there any hope, Gandalf, for Frodo and Sam?
There never was much hope.
This guy's probably fought hundreds of thousands of other super beings on the other planets he's destroyed, right? And we have to assume he's won.
Even as generic as a bank robbery in a superhero film, this time it felt like the stakes were high and important to prevail. There is up to like 3 bajillion endings, which it never ended, my friend. It never ended! The difference, however, is while The Lord of the Rings closes in a happily ever after note, the Snyder Cut shows a darker future where the villain kills most of the heroes, others have been fully corrupted, and the ones who remain are hunted down. That is not to say they both have a satisfying climactic battle in the end, where the villain came so close of winning, but in the end, they were saved by the most unexpected individuals. The Lord of the Rings being Frodo and Sam, and in Justice League, The Flash, someone who had a very poor reception in the Joss Whedon cut, after being forcibly funny and coming out as awkward instead. In fact, everyone who had a bad reception at first came out improved in the Snyder cut. Superman could be Gandalf for being the most powerful of the two, as well as dying while facing off a monster and coming back to life with a different color suit. If the Amazonians are the elfish community, then Wonder Woman could be a mix of Arwen and Galadriel. Whereas she possesses the wisdom of what enemy is to come, she also possesses the tragedy of a hopeless romance. But as well, she, along with Aquaman and Bruce Wayne, possess some other qualities of Aragorn. Whereas she and Aquaman gave up their royal place in their world to help the common people, so did Aragorn, an exiled heir of the throne, who spends his time helping the common person while leading them and inspiring them to fight back.
A day may come when the courage of men fails, but it is not this day!
Just like Bruce Wayne is a motivator for his group to stand up against this greater evil.
I don't care how many demons he's fought and how many hells. He's never fought us. Not us united.
Cyborg could be Smeagol, two individuals who have a huge connection to these powerful objects on how to destroy them. Likewise, they're the most pessimistic of all the characters, as they were cursed by these objects to become abnormal humans. And they're the main soul of the movie for how tragic yet fascinating they are. But whereas Cyborg learns to embrace his curse and use it for good, Smeagol is consumed by his obsession over the ring. The racism towards Atlanteans and Amazonians could derive from the racism towards elves and dwarves.
I hate Atlanteans as much as you Amazons do.
So if the Flash could also be Gimli for their wit and sense of humor, except for their different cardio resistance.
Keep breathing. That's the key. Breathe.
Then Aquaman could also carry his incompulsive way of fighting and Legolas' most unrealistic acrobatic moves I have ever seen. That was dumb. That was awesome. That was stupid. It was stupid in the Sweden cut, it is still stupid in the Snyder cut. The other similarity that is brought up is that they're ambitious. They're ambitious in scale, size, and in runtime, with the trilogy lasting over more than 3 hours. Return of the King being the longest for 4 hours, if you've seen the extended edition for each film. Same goes with Zack Snyder's Justice League, lasting for 4 hours, which seemed like a risk for both stories, but paid off after facing so many obstacles. Before Lord of the Rings, fantasy films were box office poison. Rarely, if not ever, would they make a big profit. The issue wasn't if the story would be good, it was how well executed would it be. This wasn't the first attempt to do Lord of the Rings. In 1978, an animated feature was released to a critical and box office disappointment, but with some eye-grabbing visuals that gain a cult following. I do recommend the first part of the animated version though. The second part to the conclusive ending, not so much. Adding to that, the trilogy was getting shot back and forth to be released the following year. If they didn't know that the first movie would be a success, what made them believe that people would sit through a trilogy for 3 hours? Well, not only did it break box office records, but Return of the King would get most of the Oscar awards that year, including Best Picture and Best Director. One of the key reasons that it succeeded was for its epicness. It goes back to Hollywood's love for having thousands of extras and long-run timing epics like Ben-Hur, Dr. Zhivago, Lawrence of Arabia, Spartacus, Gone with the Wind, The Ten Commandments, Cleopatra. So with a long running time like this, every character is well established to get us invested into their arcs and how well will they be executed. Similar to Justice League, whereas in the Joss Whedon cut it was rushed to present all the characters in 2 hours, and we still didn't know who they were, nor do we care. But with 4 hours of long cut, including the addition of new DC films in the last 4 years, we finally got to know them, care for their journeys, and be invested in their arcs, especially Cyborg. A once forgotten thought in the Whedon cut is now the most important value of the team, to the point the movie almost becomes a Cyborg movie. So if The Lord of the Rings brought some of the old Hollywood vibe with its long runtime, Justice League brought some of the old Hollywood vibe with its square 16:3 ratio instead of the usual widescreen, similar to how classic films used to shoot it in a 16:3 ratio. In an interview, Snyder explained how this ratio was made to represent the heroes rising up from the challenge, which ironically, this reflects Snyder's rise into having his vision of Justice League manifested. As I mentioned in the beginning, Justice League started as a trouble production. Fans didn't want Snyder anymore as the director because of how BBS turned out to be. And I can testify to this hate train because I was one of those who hated him because of his last movie. The studio panicked and lost all faith in him, and when we finally got what we wanted to boot him out, it unfortunately had to cost the loss of a family member of his to realize that he's still just a human being that can still get hurt, and it really wasn't fair to spit upon him over a movie when there are more important issues to care about. Adding to the fire, the allegations of the actors being abused and threatened by the new director to hurt their career just fueled the fans to see Snyder get the end of the stick as a symbolic sign of an apology. So however the movie would turn out to be, it was gonna get support from the fans regardless. And honestly, it felt satisfying to see Snyder have his vision uncompromised and fulfilled, even adding new scenes with the Joker during the pandemic. Lastly, the one comparison that some make is that they're both one of the great movies ever made. Well, I can say that about Lord of the Rings, but I don't think I'm ready to say that about Justice League. The reason some label it as great, and as expected, is due to being better than the Joss Whedon cut. But if the Snyder cut would have come out first instead, would have it had the same hype as it does now? My guess is probably not. The criticisms would have still been as harsh as in the past movies. Just because slow motion is overly used in Justice League, in fact in all of Zack Snyder's movies, doesn't make it into a sign of a great movie. Lord of the Rings did use slow motion, but it knew when to use it on emphasizing tragedy, triumph, and darkness approaching. Somebody once said that Snyder is not a man of vision, he's a man of visuals, where he creates beautiful cinematography, but his storytelling is questionable. Sometimes the slow mode is needed from the Flash point of view when he's running, but there's really no need to slow down a burger seat falling just to make the movie reach its 4-hour length. It's a problem when it wants to come out as epic, yet it feels more like self-indulgence. Even Lord of the Rings can feel pretentious and self-indulgent once in a while. Take for example the final speech in Two Towers and Justice League.
A new day will come, and when the sun shines, it'll shine out the clearer. Those were the stories that stayed with you.
Do this, be this, the man I never was, the hero you are. Take your place among the brave ones.
Or every time the lady had to loo lobby in the background. But regardless, if it's too long or feels pretentious, they still deserve recognition for their accomplishments. The Lord of the Rings influenced a new generation of filmmakers. The motion capture of Gollum was impressive at that time, and it still holds on to this day, as well as it opened the door for other fantasy tales to take a risk. Even though Justice League didn't revolutionize anything, or improve cinema in any way, it was a personal redemptive story for the director from all the hate and tragedy that he went through. The movie might have just been another bunch of heroes punching the villain, but knowing the behind the scenes drama and the years that it took to release the Snyder Cut, I can see why some would call it a great movie. The years of petition weren't necessarily to give fans a better movie. It was a petition to give Snyder and his actors a good send-off, knowing that most of them have been fired and will probably never gonna see the Snyderverse restored. Even though this made me wanna see more sequels like this in all of its dark, pessimistic, and colorless glory. In the end, everyone wins to some extent. The director, the actors, and even the fans win. So, is it like Lord of the Rings? In some aspects. Is it as great as the Lord of the Rings? Very far from it. But hey, the film was good, and that's all that matters. If you want to know how much I hated Batman v Superman when it first came out, the first time I mentioned it in my channel, it got a little personal. The second time I spoke about it in my channel, it got a little emotional.
Hate this mother!
We don't talk about that anymore. I didn't go out as much either way. So, what do you thought about this movie? Did you like it? Did you not like it? Did you see any comparisons to Lord of the Rings? Leave your thoughts on the comment section down below. And if you liked this video, leave a like and subscribe for more content. Well guys, tune in next time because when I get back, I'll be comparing Carrie and Disney's The Hunchback of Notre Dame. So for now, that's it for today. Ciao.
Pasito tum tum, pasito tum tum.